In 1955, if you asked any American boy what he wanted for Christmas, there was one answer that came up more than anything else. Not a baseball mitt, not a bike, a red metal box. More than 10 million American boys owned what was inside that box. A military engineer used it to build a bridge that helped win World War II. 2 Yale doctors used it to build the first artificial heart. And in 1918, the man who made it walked into a room full of cabinet secretaries in Washington, D.C., and literally saved Christmas for every family in America. That was the Erector Set, and then it was gone. So what actually killed it? Because here's the thing, it wasn't Lego, it wasn't plastic, and it wasn't because kids stopped wanting to build things. The real answer is stranger than you think. It all started on a train ride in 1911. A C. Gilbert was heading from New Haven to New York City, just staring out the window like anyone else on a long trip. Along that stretch of track, workers were raising big steel girders to hold up brand new electric power lines, and Gilbert could not look away. He watched those men bolt the metal together, beam by beam, until a whole tower stood in the middle of an open field. That night, he went home and sat down at his dining room table, cutting strips of cardboard. He wanted to see if he could turn those real steel girders into something a kid could hold. A few weeks later, he walked his cardboard strips over to a local toolmaker and asked him to build the same shapes in steel. That small order became the very first Erector Set. Not bad for an idea that came from daydreaming out a train window. And this is the part that makes the whole story a little weirder. Because A.C. Gilbert was not some career toy guy. He was a Yale medical student, a professional stage magician, and an Olympic gold medalist in the pole vault at the 1908 Olympics in London, breaking the world record that year. He had shaken hands with President Teddy Roosevelt. He once ran away with a minstrel show as a kid. He had over 100 athletic trophies before he was even 20 years old. This was the guy who was about to invent the most important boy's toy of the 20th century. A doctor, a magician, and a world record athlete, all rolled into one guy from Salem, Oregon. If he had stopped there, he still would have had an interesting life. But he was just getting started. And the toy he was about to build would end up inside the homes of more American boys than almost any object in the 20th century. Here is what made it so hard to put down. Now, open up one of those early red boxes and you understood instantly why kids lost their minds over it. Inside were dozens of thin steel beams with little holes punched down the middle. Tiny bolts and nuts, pulleys, gears, axles, wheels, a few brass-colored plates. The metal was cold in your hand. It had that unmistakable smell of fresh stamped steel and light machine oil. You had a small wrench, too, the kind that always slipped the first few times you used it, and then somehow became an extension of your own fingers. And if you had one of the bigger sets, there was one more thing sitting in the bottom of the box, a little green electric motor. You would wire it up, feed it power, and suddenly your crane could lift. Your drawbridge could rise. Your Ferris wheel could actually spin. No other American construction toy at the time had a working motor. This was the first one. And the moment a boy saw those gears turn for the first time, he was hooked for life. The marketing behind it is still legendary today. Gilbert took out full-page ads in the Saturday Evening Post and Popular Mechanics. It was the first national advertising campaign ever run for a toy in America. Right at the top of every single ad, in thick black letters, was the line that defined this whole thing for the next 50 years. "Hello, boys. Make lots of toys." 4 words, no fluff. And those 4 words pulled in kids from every small town in the country. Gilbert knew exactly who he was talking to. "I've remained a boy at heart," he once said, "and I only introduced items that appealed to me. I figured they would appeal to all boys." The ad showed kids in suspenders and newsboy caps building towers taller than themselves. And here is the part most people miss. Gilbert was not really selling a toy. He was selling a promise. The idea that a regular kid sitting on his living room rug in Ohio or Texas or New Jersey could become an engineer someday. That he could build real things. That he could understand how the world around him actually worked. Parents bought that promise, and their boys bought it even harder. By 1915, the Erector Set won a gold medal at the Panama Pacific Exposition in San Francisco. And just like that, Gilbert was the biggest name in American toys. But the toy was about to face its first real threat, one that had nothing to do with competition and everything to do with a world at war. So what were boys actually building on their bedroom floors? Just about anything they could dream up. Bridges with working drawbridges, cranes with hooks that lifted marbles off the floor, steam shovels that scooped up pencil shavings, tiny elevators that actually went up and down, windmills, robots, Ferris wheels that spun for an hour straight, as long as the motor held out. By the 1930s, the biggest sets could build an entire miniature amusement park, a working parachute drop, a merry-go-round with tiny seats that really moved in a circle. Some boys would spend 6 weeks on a single project. Others would tear their creations apart every Friday night and start fresh on Saturday morning. There was no right way to do it. That was the whole point. But here's where this toy stops being a children's story. The original scale model of the Bailey Bridge, one of the great engineering wonders of World War II, was built by Sir Donald Bailey using a number 10.5 Erector Set. This was the bridge design that let Allied tanks cross rivers all across Europe. A wartime military engineer prototyped the whole thing with a child's toy from Connecticut. And it gets stranger. In 1949, 2 doctors at Yale, William Sewell and Dr. William Glenn, built the precursor to the modern artificial heart using erector parts. Their external pump kept a dog alive for more than an hour. An artificial heart, built from a toy. Keep that in mind, because it changes how you understand what this thing actually was. Think about that the next time someone tells you it was just a thing for kids. But those two things almost never happened. Because in the fall of 1918, the Erector Set came within days of being banned from existence entirely. America was deep in World War I, and the Council of National Defense was seriously considering a ban on toy production for the entire holiday season. The thinking was simple. Metal, wood, and factory time should all go to the war effort. Parents should spend their money on Liberty bonds instead of toys. If that ban had gone through, Christmas morning in 1918 would have looked very different for every family in America.
Gilbert was not having it.
He packed up a satchel full of Erector Sets, chemistry kits, and tiny toy submarines, and he got on a train to Washington. He walked into a room full of cabinet secretaries. He set everything out on the table, and he started building. Within a few minutes, the Secretaries of War, the Navy, Commerce, and the Interior were all crouched over that table like they were 8 years old again, playing with girders, winding up submarines, flipping through little science books. Gilbert told them something they would never forget. He said America was the home of educational toys, and that those toys were quietly preparing the nation's future engineers, scientists, and soldiers.
The council agreed. The ban died right there in that room.
The Saturday Evening Post ran a photo of Gilbert with his Erector Set above the caption, "The Man Who Saved Christmas." And that nickname stuck with him for the rest of his life. Gilbert had just fought the United States government and won. Now he was about to build something even bigger. And for the next 40 years, it would run perfectly until one decision changed everything. Through the 1930s, 1940s, and 1950s, Gilbert ran the whole operation out of a massive factory complex in New Haven, Connecticut. The neighborhood loved the place so much that people just started calling it Erector Square. That name stuck too. At its peak, from the early 1930s to the late 1950s, the A.C. Gilbert Company employed as many as 5,000 people. It was the single largest employer in all of New Haven. And Gilbert ran it differently from most factories of the time. He offered things other employers were not offering in 1940. Paid maternity leave, health insurance contributions, a free credit union for workers, free legal advice, a big Christmas party for the workers' kids every single year. He called his staff co-workers, not employees. He punched the same time clock they did. And once a week he walked the night shift himself just to see how things were going. He almost always found something small to improve. This was not just a toy factory. It was becoming an institution, and the box those toys came in was about to become just as iconic as the toy itself. The boxes themselves were legendary. From 1913 until 1932, Erector Sets came in hinged wooden cases. Then from 1933 to 1962, they were sold in heavy painted steel boxes, first in red, green, and blue. Then by the 1950s, all of them were that deep Gilbert red. That red is what collectors still chase today. Each set had a number stamped right on the lid. Number 4 for the younger kids, number 6.5 for the middle years, number 8 for the serious builder, and then the legend of the whole line, number 10.5, the set that could build a working super locomotive and over 398 other models. Opening one of these boxes on Christmas morning was a rite of passage. The latches snapped, the oil smell hit you, and just like that, the next 6 months of your life were already planned out. But here is where the story goes deeper. Because the Erector Set did not just teach kids how to build things, it taught them how to think. Gilbert believed a real toy had to do something. It had to reward patience, and it had to punish sloppy work a little. If your bolts were loose, your crane fell over. If your gears were off by one tooth, your motor stalled out completely. You learned by failing over and over until you finally got it right. Pretty soon, most boys stopped following the manual at all. They started designing their own machines from scratch in notebooks at the kitchen table. That little habit, sitting on the floor and just inventing things, shaped a whole generation of American men. Engineers, architects, inventors, pilots, mechanics. A huge chunk of the guys who built mid-century America trace their first real spark back to this exact red box. One boy, Stephen Smith of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, once wrote a letter to Gilbert himself. He said he went up to his attic one day, found a strange metal box, opened it up, and figured out it was his father's old Erector Set. He asked for his own one for Christmas that year. And Gilbert kept every single letter like that. Millions of them over the years. That is not just a toy with a legacy. That is a toy that shaped a country. Some of those boys grew up to do extraordinary things. Claude Shannon, the mathematician who basically invented the digital age, built one of his famous bounce juggling machines out of an Erector Set in the 1970s. Sir Donald Bailey, the engineer we talked about earlier, won a knighthood for his bridge design that started as a toy. The Erector Set also powered Gilbert's wider empire. By 1938, he had bought the rights to American Flyer electric trains and moved the whole operation to New Haven. He added chemistry sets, microscope kits, magic sets, even an atomic energy kit in the 1950s, with real low-grade uranium inside the box. At his death, Gilbert held over 150 patents. If you grew up between 1913 and 1960, there is a very real chance the first machine you ever built came out of one of his red boxes. For almost 50 years, that promise held. Then, on January 24th, 1961, it started to break. On January 24th, 1961, A.C. Gilbert died. He was 76 years old. The news ran in papers across the country, and one line in his obituary put it better than anything else could. It said that when he died, a part of American boyhood went with him. His son, a C. Gilbert Jr., took over the company. He promised to keep his father's vision alive. He tried. He really did. But the ground was already shifting under his feet, and he had no idea how fast the world was about to leave the Erector Set behind. Because by 1964, something was happening in American living rooms. Color TV was everywhere. G.I. Joe hit the shelves and sold out instantly. The first plastic model kits, the kind that let a kid finish a whole race car in one afternoon, were flying out of stores. Childhood itself was speeding up. And here came the Erector Set, still asking a boy to sit quietly, still asking him to read a real manual, still asking him to tighten 50 tiny bolts before anything would move. For the last 50 years, that slow process had been the whole point. The patience was the reward. But in the 1960s, patience started to look like a waste of time. The sets that once sold 10 million copies suddenly felt old. The company tried to adapt fast, They added plastic parts to modernize the look. They redesigned the boxes. They chased the trend. It did not work. The new plastic models looked clunky compared to the realistic scale plastic kits coming from competitors, and the classic metal sets started to feel dated sitting next to them on the shelf. And here's the part that most people get wrong. The bankruptcy in 1967 was not the moment the Erector Set died. The real death happened years earlier, in living rooms, not boardrooms. And it happened to every slow, patient toy in America at the same time. By 1966, the A.C. Gilbert Company was bleeding money every single quarter.
And then came the news nobody in New Haven ever wanted to hear.
In 1967, the A.C. Gilbert Company filed for bankruptcy, 6 years after the founder's death. Just like that, Erector Square, the factory that had once employed 5,000 people, was shut down for good. The Erector name was sold off to the Gabriel Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Gabriel tried to keep the toy alive. For a few years, they did okay, but the golden age was already over. Everyone could feel it. And then the 1970s hit with a wrecking ball. The 1973 oil crisis changed everything. Plastic got expensive almost overnight. Manufacturers everywhere were cutting corners just to survive. By the mid-1970s, most of the plastic parts in an Erector set had been quietly removed or replaced with laminated fiberboard for panels. A savings measure, they called it, because of the oil crisis. That tells you everything about how rough things had gotten. A toy that had once been stamped out of real American steel was now being held together with fancy cardboard. It still sold here and there, but the magic was draining out of it. Through the 1980s, the Erector trademark got passed around like an old family heirloom nobody really wanted anymore. First to Ideal Toys, then to Tyco Toys. Each new owner tried to breathe life back into the brand. Each one failed. And then in 1990, the final twist showed up. A French-British company called Meccano bought the Erector brand. If that name rings a bell, it should. Meccano was Gilbert's original competitor. The British construction toy he had beaten out way back in 1913, the one his simpler 1-inch square girder design had outsmarted. For almost 80 years, the American Erector set had outsold, outbuilt, and outmarketed its British cousin on its own turf. And then, at the very end of the story, the cousin finally swallowed up the family. Today, if you buy an Erector set, it is sold under the name Erector by Meccano. Same parts, same branding. Gilbert's original vision absorbed into the very toy he once beat. That is how American toy history ends sometimes, quietly, and with a little bit of irony. But the real question is still sitting there. Why did a toy with 10 million owners, a place in American military history, a role in the first artificial heart, and a founder who literally saved Christmas just fade out of our homes? The honest answer is that the country changed. Childhood itself changed. In 1955, a 10-year-old boy would sit for 3 full hours with a pile of steel beams, a folded manual, and a single light bulb burning over the kitchen table. That was normal. By 1995, that same kid had a Super Nintendo in the living room, 1,000 cartoon channels on cable, a handheld Game Boy in his backpack. The reward loop got faster, the effort got lower, and the toy companies noticed. Suddenly, everything was snapped together, bright plastic, licensed characters from whatever movie was out that summer. Lego had been around for decades already.
But in the 1980s and 1990s, it quietly took over the entire construction toy space in America.
Bright plastic bricks, color-coded instruction booklets, pre-made kits that turned into a pirate ship or a race car in under an hour. You did not need a wrench anymore. You did not need patience. You just needed to follow the picture. For most parents and most kids, that was simply easier. The slow, quiet satisfaction of tightening a real metal bolt onto a real steel beam just started to feel old-fashioned. And that was the real death of the Erector set. Not a bankruptcy filing, a cultural shift. Today, if you walk into the right antique store or flip through an old Sears catalog from 1955, you can still find those red steel boxes. Collectors chase them hard. A complete number 10.5 set from the 1930s, with all of its original parts and the original instruction manual, can go for thousands of dollars at auction. Some dads dig theirs out of the attic and hand them down to grandkids, the same way their own fathers handed them down 50 years earlier. A few of those sets have now been in a single family for 3 generations, passed from grandfather to son to grandson. They still work. The bolts still bite. The motors still spin. Because a real toy built out of real steel does not actually go bad. And if you ever get your hands on one, the same red box, the same cold steel, the same little wrench that slips the first few times and then somehow becomes an extension of your fingers. Lay the girders out on the floor. Find the little wrench. Try to build the simplest bridge in the manual. You will feel something come back. That cold steel in your palm. That little click when the bolt seats into place. The exact moment when the motor finally kicks in and the whole thing starts moving for the first time. That feeling is what every boy in America used to know. That is what the Erector Set really was. Not a toy, a first taste of what it felt like to build something real with your own 2 hands. If you ever had an Erector Set growing up, tell me in the comments what you built first. The very first thing that comes to mind. I read every one. And if this brought back some good memories, subscribe for more lost pieces of American life we used to have. There is one more forgotten toy coming next, and almost nobody remembers how it actually disappeared.